Eonar, final boss of Last Titan, I kind of want that. Dude, I want Eonar. Here's what I really want, dude. I want Eonar to suck out Sargeras' power and take his flame as her own and leave him as a smoldering husk. And then I think Illidan, you know, whether what happens with Illidan or not, I would kind of like if he made it back. That'd be kind of sick if Sargeras, like, sent him off, but then Eonar fucking literally stole all of Sargeras' power out of him and, like, became, like, a... Look, what I'm trying to say, chat, is, like, fire and life can coexist within one body. We just saw that with the Emerald Dream. So as a being of spirit, life, and that type of energy, and Sargeras is very powerful, it would stand to reason, in my opinion, that claiming one's soul would be a massive source of power. I mean, he is radiant as a sun. They call him darkened, but he's brighter than any of them. And so, if you could claim a soul like that, that's a lot of power, and you should be afraid of anything that would have the ability to claim something like that. What I'm saying is Usurper goddess, a goddess that would steal the power of other gods in order to expand her magical domain and thus become more powerful. Because why are the Titans doing this? Well, there is the possibility that it's envy-fueled rage from Eonar and hatred, jealousy of the ability to create souls, and she may have betrayed her own in order to try to usurp the power of the mother of all of them. Basically, try to steal the power of creation. And if that's the case, well, that'd be fucking terrifying. But, you know, that's yet to be, you know, it's not like a proven thing by any means. Not that anything that I've just said is proven. But anyway, I don't think that Illidan can be contained. We'll see. I mean, Gul'dan believed Illidan was the perfect vessel for Sargeras. Well, he believed that because that's also what Sargeras wanted. It was like the direct orders of the Legion that that's what he was to do. So that's what it's not even just what Gul'dan believed, that's what Sargeras believed. What about a Titan civil war and Sargeras becoming a martyr? Could be. What do you think we'll see Argus again by the end of the World Soul Saga? We saw an echo of Argus in the Shadowlands. I'd like clarification on if that really was the remainder of his soul or just an echo. I mean, it slammed into the Arbiter, causing it to malfunction. And then we see the echo of it in Zereth Mortis later. But then the energy in the sword is also of question. Like, what is that? Is it actually Argus? Is it Argus's anima? Like, I would think that given the resultant appearance of Azerite as we know it, that it would be something more akin to like a soul blend. And by that I mean, yes, something akin to Uther or Sylvanas' soul having been split and maybe being put back together. And I would remind you, I'm pretty sure that the fragments of those souls were depicted as blue and gold, which is important, I think, when looking at Azerite. Why did Argus have spikes on his body? I think because he was imprisoned and tormented and tortured. And I think the reason why the spikes were there was to make him bleed. There's actually Hearthstone art of Argus, and he's actually standing in like a Titan facility. So it kind of looks like Ulduar. And he actually doesn't have the spikes in him at all. And so it makes me think that perhaps he was, you know, inflicted these wounds in order to bleed the soul of its essence. And I think that they have probably done something similar to Azeroth in the past. I think that the Titans have shown that they have an aptitude for experimentation with blood, and I think that Azeroth would be no exception. If they wanted to alchemically achieve anything beyond what they are capable of, I think stealing Azeroth's power by doing thus would grant exactly that. We were wielding within our hands basically the soul essence of Azeroth in the form of crystallized blood in Azerite. So when you think about that, it's like, okay, how does this show how blood links to the soul? And what would the value be, perhaps, of bleeding the soul of such as, like, the Creator? Well, if you're a vain, envious goddess and you want the power to create truly, I think that stealing it from Mother Creator would be a way to do that. And that's a very up thing to do, but you know what? Eonar's character and her depictions, her weapon, her crown, her behaviors match a lot of really questionable goddesses from a lot of different mythologies, pantheons, and other histories. And so it doesn't look good for her. Not that Sargeras isn't as well, you know? Eonar is just typically more aligned with goddesses that represent usurping, taking positions that don't belong to them, like Kalia Menethil. Or like the leader of the, you know, the pantheon. Like, here's the deal. We've all, look, it's a trope we've all fucking seen in fantasy where the king has that advisor, whether it's a male or female, that's whispering in his ear the machinations of their own and influencing what he's doing. It's such a common trope that it makes you, you know, I think the obvious answer is to look at Aman'Thul, especially in the way that he's depicted as being very angry and stuff. Like, oh, it's him. It's obviously him. But that might not necessarily be the case. Like, behind him is an advisor, and I think that the advisor probably used to be Sargeras and is now Eonar. So another example of her potentially taking a position that didn't really belong to her. And with that, you know, I fear that she will try to claim the mantle of his power as well. So there's a lot to unpack there. It's a lot to try to digest, but I think that as more pieces fall into place, as we learn more about the mechanisms of this prison, that it will become clearer and hopefully be really fun and told well, because there's an opportunity here to I mean, you could do some amazing stuff. I'll just leave it at that. You have any speculation about any mortals that can have some influence on the Pantheon when they return? Grown-up Anduin, Velen? I don't know if I'd consider Velen a mortal, truly, as the timeless one. But yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. Those common characters, common thread characters. I think, probably very little. I think that in the eyes of the gods, most mortal lives are probably inconsequential. There are probably a few with predestined fates like Illidan, maybe even Malfurion, Ashara, are three big ones that come to mind. All of them had golden eyes. I think it's said at one point that Malfurions are amber, but in the Legion cutscene when it shows the two of them, they're both gold, and so I don't really understand. They say it like, oh, a child born with golden eyes. I gotta watch the whole thing again, because it's actually... Golden eye thing is intriguing, but Ashara had it as well. So I kind of think she honestly had like a predestined fate as well, which makes you think like, what the fuck was that destiny if it was allowed to unfold without the influence of the Legion through her advisor, Xavius. So, let's not forget the Mogu were manipulating anima within reality. Well, there has been, I do recall reading one of the lore interviews where someone questioned that, are they the same thing? And they clarified anyway that they're allegedly not. But, and maybe they're not. Maybe what we saw is a mere replication. Maybe that's the point that they're trying to make, is that the Titans, you know, what they were crafting, or what the Mogu perhaps learned to craft through their, you know, being descendants of Titans and their constructs, you know, maybe what they believe anima and vita to craft life is maybe that's not fully correct, but I think that they have clarified that they are separate things. When is Odin gonna do something? Probably in the last Titan. It could be as soon as the War Within, but Viranoth just froze him. I don't know how long he's going to be frozen for, but he might be kind of in the freezer until the last Titan. The Golden Eye thing is actually why I attribute Illidan to being a similar take to Kratos. And the God of War franchise is partial inspiration. I don't think that's that much of a stretch. Wouldn't it be wild, though, if the last Titan was not anything we expect, but something totally new? That would be wildly disappointing, honestly. Considering that, you know, for the last 15, 20 years, we've been fighting for Azeroth, and there could be a big twist in that way, but I feel like That's very risky to do. I think you might just want to do the thing that the clues kind of seem to be pointing towards, and you should just do that. Not sure if you have answered this before. Do you think Illidan will come back in the World Soul Saga? Yes. I think he will probably come back just before or with the Titans, if they don't get rid of him somehow. I think they would probably rather reuse him as a tool. The Titans don't really seem to get rid of anything, you know? So I don't really foresee them just extinguishing or killing Sargeras and or Illidan. They would repurpose them for something. They would use them. That's how the Titans seem to work. And so that's kind of what I fear the most. What if they send him down first but ordered? I don't know what I'm afraid of. It is a possibility that I consider often, and it is terrifying. It's not what I want to happen, but it may happen. The only real Titans were Argus and Azeroth. The Pantheon are powered up Constellars, and since Argus is dead, Azeroth is the last Titan. They could be. Maybe like beings of order that stem from Zereth Ordis. If that's real. I kind of like to think that the Titans are bigger, more powerful. And I don't know. We'll see. I still like them just being her children, and they still have like godlike powers, but they're not on the same level. I don't know if the wordplay on Last Titan has to be as much of a thing as people make it out to be. It very well could be. I'm not going to deny that, but I'm not sure if it's... I don't know. Do you think the Keeper of Ulduar are as evil as Odin himself? Odin and Loken were particularly fucked up. Like, Loken was really bad too. How he's, at least is how it's depicted in Chronicle. Did you guys know, after the Titans died, their souls flew back to Azeroth and slammed into the Keepers? Did you guys know that? That's what Chronicle says. And then remember in Mists of Pandaria how Rathian eats the heart of Lei Shen and gets the vision from the Titans, and it says, "We have fallen. We must rebuild the final Titan. Do not forget." And then Rathian's like, "They all fucking forgot. That's hilarious, bro. They all forgot." Well, Chronicle says that when they died, their souls flew back to the Keepers on Azeroth. And they resided in them for a time, like, I guess slowly fading is the way that it's kind of described. So if that happened, then their souls may have returned to their Keepers, fizzled out and died. And then, if they're anything like other beings tied to realms, it says in Chronicle that they all woke up from their own worlds, right? We see in Antorus, the Burning Throne, a boss called Eonar the Soul Hunter, who was tasked by Sargeras to hunt down the souls of the Pantheon. The only one he couldn't find was Eonar, go figure. So I wonder if literally after their souls faded and fucking died inside of their Keepers, if that's what happened, if they returned to their realms. And that's where Eonar hunted them down and found them, claiming their souls maybe with Legion forces and bringing them back. If you go into Karazhan, and even into Ulduar, there are 7 or 8 planets. There is enough to represent every Titan of the Titan Pantheon. And I think that the colors that they give you as hints for the worlds and how they look are big, big indications of what those worlds represent. If they really do represent Titan planets, then that very well could be what they are. And we've never been, potentially, to maybe any of them. Well, besides Argus, Azeroth, which both sound as though they were built by the Titans, is what it sounds like. But it sounds like the world was here before. That's what they claim. The world was there before, the old gods were there, and all the primal stuff, and all this. It's interesting. Interesting to think about. Maybe that was the case. Maybe if Argus and Azeroth went to sleep, and worlds formed around them, maybe that was a naturally occurring thing. They all went to sleep, and when their children woke up, the Titans, instead of doing what they're supposed to do, you know, they sought out their parents, ordered their brothers and sisters, Aman'Thul did, sounds like at this point, Aman'Thul, maybe Norgannon as well, ordered them, did all this stuff to them, and is now basically, sounds like stalling the cycle of the universe. So that's kind of where we're at. That's, yeah, kind of where we're at. Not a good look. So, the next part of the Titan saga, if it continues after this, if they use the same plot threads, do like a rebirth or reawakening scenario type thing, there might be a plot where we are going to the different worlds of the Titans and undoing the mechanisms that, if Azeroth doesn't undo them herself, which she very well potentially could, undoing the mechanisms that cause for them to, go on this course in the first place. But also I think that there's always been like that underlying, it's not even that underlying, idea of the cycle. And all this stuff that's occurring may have all occurred before. I just think that the threat is that the Titans could potentially always be overbearingly orderly. Like, that could always be the fate as the cycle turns. What I fear is that they have somehow become, like, unbalanced orderly at this point. And if they tip the scales to the point where Azeroth is imprisoned and can never wake up ever again, then that would be terrible, and that would really, I think, have a pretty big detrimental effect on the universe. Maybe in the form of, like, giant old gods and crazy shit like that existing. But anyway, like I said, there's a lot to unpack there.